Most of us believe we are not alone in the universe. In 2017, a survey of over 26,000 people from 24 different countries found that 61% of respondents believe that there is some form of life on other planets. 47% of people believed that these life forms represented intelligent alien civilizations. Similar results were found during a poll of 1,114 Americans in 2012, and again in 2014 when some 2,000 British adults and children were asked about the existence of extraterrestrials. The majority of humanity, it would seem, believes in some form of life beyond Earth. For some, belief goes beyond speculation. It is influenced by personal experience. In 2012, 1/10 of respondents to a National Geographic Society survey claimed that they had seen an unidentified flying object. The term UFO, although not necessarily meaning of extraterrestrial origin, often being equated with aliens in current usage of the term. And extraterrestrial visitations or close encounters are by no means limited to sightings. Intriguingly, or perhaps horrifyingly, there are people who claim to have been contacted by alien life forms. Contact which is unsolicited, non-consensual, and often unconscious. Whilst we do not have an exact number for how many people claim to have memories of being abducted by aliens, it has been said that the figure is likely to run into many thousands. Understandably, those who are skeptical of extraterrestrials having visited Earth are even more skeptical when it comes to claims of alien abductions. They are, for many, simply too fantastical to believe. If alien forms of life ever established contact with Earth, it would no doubt be one of the most sensational scientific discoveries mankind has ever made, and would therefore be world-shattering in its implications. There is a sense that many believe such a discovery simply couldn't happen without us realizing. If extraterrestrials did make contact, it would, they suppose, be an event of such magnitude that there would be no room for argument or misinterpretation. As such, claims of covert, sinister nighttime abductions are simply too poor quality and perhaps too quiet in terms of evidence, and can thus be easily explained away through the lens of human psychology. This standard approach to assessing claims of alien abductions by many mainstream scientists and commentators has bred a policy of dismissal. In this way, arch-skeptics like Professor Chris French, the head of anomalistic psychology at Goldsmiths University of London, is not alone when he suggests that the desire for fame and fortune can lead to exaggerated testimonies and the falsification of ever more elaborate claims of alien abductions. Disdainfully, he has cited so-called contactees who have profited from book deals and media appearances, including George Adamski, who in the 1940s and 1950s claimed to have witnessed UFOs and met with friendly so-called alien space brothers who allegedly took him for flights in their spacecraft. However, whilst the desire to be heard and perhaps the desire to turn a profit may play a part in some cases, this is simply not the story in many accounts. Like all arch-skeptics and indeed arch-believers, Professor French cherry-picks cases and evidence to suit his argument, ignoring those claims which do not fit his dogma. Not everyone publishes a book or otherwise financially exploits their alleged experiences. In fact, for many who genuinely believe they have been abducted by alien beings, there is a fear that their experiences can irreparably damage their reputation and the reputations of their loved ones. In short, they do not wish to talk about their experiences. It is not an exaggeration to say that there is a negative stigma attached to claims of alien abductions. Early contactees like George Adamski and his space brothers were referred to as the lunatic fringe of UFOlogy, and it can be said that such a damning judgment has forever scarred the study of close encounters. In this way, it is not uncommon for self-identified abductees to keep their experiences a secret for years, only finally revealing their encounters when they feel they can stand it no longer, often suffocating under the weight of the trauma that these experiences tend to cause. And then, even when they do share them, they often reach out under a cloak of false names and hidden identities. Such is the case for Jeremy, who claims to have been plagued by events he can only describe as alien abduction for over 20 years. During our email correspondence, he explained how he hasn't told any of his friends or family out of fear of being labelled crazy. From the start of our communication, he was clear about his wish to remain anonymous, stating that he has no interest in drawing attention to himself. It would lead to a lot of ridicule, he has stated, and affect other aspects of my life which I cannot afford as I take care of my wife and child. So, why reach out at all? For Jeremy, it was a desire to find answers after many years of silent struggle. Also, he now fears for his daughter after allegedly waking one night to find several beings standing in the room near my bed. His daughter was next to him. When he tried to put himself between them and her, one of the beings raised a hand and I blacked out. Fear not only of judgment, but of the act of abduction itself is a common feature in the stories of potential abductees. For those who remember their abductions, they report being taken from their beds whilst sleeping by unknown beings, or waking up in a strange room, where they are often subjected to various medical procedures. However, it is said that not everyone remembers being abducted. Someone could, in theory, live their whole life without ever realizing they have been abducted by aliens. This is perhaps the single most terrifying element of abduction phenomena. In the 20th century, experts began noticing a series of psychological disturbances in their patients that had no apparent cause. In 1986, Dr. Ronald Westrom, in response to these observations, proposed the recognition of a new psychological syndrome called post-abduction syndrome, or PAS. He suggested that some people exhibit a type of trauma that one might expect an alien abductee, if real, to experience. According to his definition, this condition is characterized by living in a state of incredible anxiety when going to sleep, being in a bedroom, during medical procedures, whilst in elevators, and even when exposed to animals with large eyes. Psychologists who use Westrom's PAS symptoms when working with patients have observed that fear of going to sleep could be so severe that those believed to be suffering with PAS may need to have lights, radios, and even televisions turned on in order to feel somewhat safe. Irrational phobias may also incapacitate patients from going to certain places or experiencing anything medical. Other symptoms include terrible dreams of black-eyed aliens, spaceships, and undergoing horrifying medical procedures. This condition can be so symptomatic that it can even affect a person's ability to enjoy relationships with other people. Often, PAS sufferers feel the constant need to move around from place to place. Post-abduction syndrome suggests that abductions most commonly occur without the abductee consciously remembering. Only a minority of abductees are able to recall their experiences, and even then, they often report that their memories are fragmented or suddenly return to them many years later. Such is the case in the well-known story of Barney and Betty Hill, whose supposed abduction happened in 1961, but they did not begin to explore the incident until 2 years later. The precursor to their exploration included strange dreams, in line with the characteristics of PAS. Another case involves Bill Brooks, a former British Army soldier who, despite claiming to have been abducted since early childhood, did not remember any of his experiences before the age of 44. Piecing these encounters back together, he claims, took over 20 years. The uncovering of abduction cases, therefore, is not always intentional. It is not so simple to say people knowingly share fantastical stories of close encounters with the hope of being believed. Often these people are scared, their lives debilitated by fears and anxieties which have no obvious cause. Strangely, as traumatic as abduction experiences can be for those who either knowingly or unknowingly experience them, there are others who report having adjusted to the phenomena, dismissing it as inconsequential to their lives. they move on and lead perfectly healthy and normal lives. And this is the difficult thing about alien abductions and abductees. It is not always what you might expect. Just as adjustments to innately repulsive experiences is shocking and unexpected, the backgrounds of alleged abductees often is too. When we consider the archetype of an abductee, rarely would we think of certified psychologists, highly trained soldiers, or successful lawyers. But these are precisely the sorts of people who report being abducted. According to John E. Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist who has studied abduction phenomena in depth, they seem to come as if at random from all parts of society. A Brazilian farmer who was diagnosed with radiation poisoning after claiming to have been abducted in 1957 went on to become a respectable lawyer. In Jeremy's case, some of his understanding about his abductions have been influenced by his own experiences having served in the US Air Force's Space Warfare Division. A question which has no doubt plagued the minds of all abductees at some point or another is why me? Why were they chosen to be abducted and subjected to traumatic experimentations and communications by alien life forms? It may be that there are some answers to be found in familial connections. That is to say, there are examples where close encounters seem to be inherited. David M. Jacobs, a professor of history and a keen ufologist, has documented a case he personally investigated where a woman claimed to have been jointly abducted with her son by aliens in her basement. Another example comes from Jeremy, who, in the course of his emails, spoke of how he was born in the UK whilst his father, a US serviceman, was stationed at a United States Air Force-operated RAF base in Suffolk. I know there was quite a bit of UFO activity in Suffolk during that period, Jeremy explained, and so I wonder if that is what started this whole series of events. The now inactive military facility borders Rendlesham Forest, the location of the infamous alleged UFO incident that was reported only a few years before Jeremy's birth. My father used to speak of strange happenings in that region, as well as paranormal activity he experienced in our house and on the base. Jeremy also spoke of how his mother was not supposed to be able to have any more children when she fell pregnant with Jeremy and his twin brother, who sadly died during pregnancy. Whilst it is terrifying to imagine, could events that happened before Jeremy's birth have influenced decades' worth of abduction experiences? Of course, there are other potential explanations for why people become alien abductees. Explanations which dismiss close encounters being real and instead suggest psychological predeterminants may cause delusions or confirmations of biases. According to Professor French, certain psychological factors do appear to be relevant to the vast majority of abduction cases. False memories of being abducted, he has stated, may be caused by particular personality traits, including hypnotic susceptibility, fantasy proneness, and absorption. The tendency to become totally absorbed in one's own mental activity, such as losing oneself in a work of fiction. In some ways, it can be said that skeptics like French are suggesting so-called abductees simply cannot tell the difference between reality and a fiction of their own creation. Another explanation combats the frequent use of hypnotic regression to aid in the discovery of abduction experiences. Often, those who believe they have been abducted by aliens undergo hypnosis, during which memories are said to be recovered from the subconscious mind. Such was the case for Barney and Betty Hill, who underwent separate hypnotherapy sessions in 1964. In the course of these sessions, Barney revealed details such as supposedly being taken onto a disc-shaped craft and encountering non-human beings with mesmerizing eyes, who subjected him to a medical examination. The reasoning behind the use of hypnosis is that aliens, it is alleged, have the ability to wipe the memories of those they abduct. Hypnosis, therefore, is a way to unlock these secret remembrances. Hypnotic regression, however, is controversial and is not always recognized as being able to produce accurate results. Whilst the apparent memories produced can feel very real, it is argued that they are very likely to be false, produced by our beliefs, expectations, and fantasies, and not real events. Evidence retrieved in this manner, therefore, is not likely to convince experts who are not only skeptical of aliens having visited Earth, but of hypnotherapy as well. Whilst false memories triggered by delusions or ineffective hypnosis may be true for some individuals, such a sweeping brushstroke explanation risks negating what may very well be genuine cases. The world is never so black or white to give a one-size-fits-all explanation, especially not when handling phenomena as varied and complex as that which is reported by alleged alien abductees. There are so many people whose lives have been massively affected, and in some cases irreparably damaged, by events which they claim are abductions by extraterrestrial life forms. Often these experiences are reported as dating right back to childhood, suggesting that someone's entire life could be dismissed as a lie if we follow the strict explanations of skeptics. Obviously, this is not the case. There is something to be studied. Precisely what that is, however, is unknown. Are alien abductions real? Perhaps a better question to pose would be, if they are real, what do these aliens hope to gain by abducting people? The answer is perhaps so terrifying that most of us would simply rather dismiss the possibility of the phenomena altogether. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more of the paranormal. Equally, if you would like another video on alien abductions, exploring other aspects including what has been described as happening during an abduction, please leave a comment below. I would love to explore this phenomena in more depth. Also, if you have an experience to share, either in regards to this topic or another paranormal topic, you can contact me via my website. The link to my contact form is in the description. You can also find links to similar videos that you might enjoy, which are also suggested on screen now. Until next time.